Tonight, for something a little bit different, I'm going to take you on an Anchorage relocation. We're going to move an empty Panamax ship from English Bay. We're going to go southbound in the traffic lanes, and then we're going to round East Point, come into Boundary Pass, head up into Swanson Channel, into Trincomali Channel, and we'll be anchoring this ship just northwest of Portlier Pass. You can see here we're already facing west at English Bay number 14. Some other anchored ships on our port side. On our right hand side you can see West Vancouver, a couple ships at Anchorage there, and you can see the flashing white light at Point Atkinson. As we proceed westbound out of the anchorages, we'll pass these anchored container ships and then an anchored bulk carrier. On our left hand side there's a tug and barge that's just left the North Arm, so we're gonna head a little bit further west than we normally would. I like to cut this corner if I can, if there's no traffic, but we'll wait till we get past this tug and barge. And then we're going to alter course to port, and we're going to steer southbound in the traffic lanes. You can't really see it here, but we'd be steering on Bruce Peak. As we come down and we approach the Iona Jetty, you can see we have lots of in and outbound air traffic from Vancouver International Airport. The reason that we're moving the ship is they were scheduled to load canola at both Cascadia Terminal and Pacific Elevators number 4 in Vancouver Harbour. Anchorages in Vancouver Harbour and the Southern Gulf Islands are all assigned by the Port of Vancouver, and typically the longer you're going to be waiting for your berth or for your cargo, the further out you go. So obviously there was some delay with the ship's cargo, so the port relocated it out to Trincomali Anchorage number 5. As we continue south here, we're approaching Sandheads and the entrance to the Fraser River. This flashing white light ahead of us is the Tango Alpha buoy, which marks the cautionary area at the entrance to the Fraser River. We're going to turn to port here, and we're going to head southeast. This mountain peak we're steering on is Mount Constitution on San Juan Island, and you can see on our left-hand side, passing a tug and barge. This first ship that we're meeting is inbound for Vancouver Harbour Anchorage. You can see both Delta Port, West Shore Terminals, and Tsawwassen Terminal on the left-hand side. This camera I'm using is a new one. It's the DJI Osmo Action 5, and the night exposure is pretty good. This is uncorrected footage. This next ship on our left-hand side, they're actually inbound from the Victoria Pod Station, and they're headed for the anchorage that we just left. So we're carrying on southeast in the lanes. We're going to pass Active Pass. Normally there'd be quite a bit of ferry traffic crossing here. As we carry on south, again we're still carrying on Mount Constitution. That flashing white light, the little one is on Alden Point on Paytos Island, and the brighter one is the light at East Point on the very east tip of Saturna Island. So as we approach East Point, we're going to come to starboard here. Normally I'd be a little bit further to the south, but on a big ebb tide it makes this turn much easier if you can stay wide and then make a nice gentle turn in. So as we approach East Point, we're going to start our turn to starboard. Again, this flashing white light is the light at East Point on the east end of Saturna Island. We're now entering Boundary Pass. You've got Saturna Island on the right hand side. You've got Waldron Island on the left hand side, which is in the United States. We're going to pass the entrance to Plumper Sound, which is between Saturna and North Pender and South Pender. This flashing white light is on the south tip of South Pender Island. And in just a second you're going to see a third ship round Turn Point, which is the light on the left hand side. That is an Aframax tanker inbound for an English Bay pilot change. So we've passed Gallant Point, we're going to turn to starboard. We're now heading into Swanson Channel, and that flashing light ahead of us, that white one, that is on Beaver Point on the east tip of Salt Spring Island. We're going to carry on to the north. When we get up a little bit further here, we're going to make another turn to starboard, and we'll be steering basically due north. And as we steer due north, we'll be pointed pretty well at Active Pass. That white light ahead on the Find to Port is Portlock Point. When we get up to Portlock, we're going to make a port hand turn and enter Trincomali Channel. As I said, we're basically steering on Active Pass right now. We're going to make the port hand turn here. We're going to leave that quick red light as Enterprise Reef. We've now got Prevost Island on the left and Galliano Island on the right. That white light is Peely Point, which marks the entrance to Captain Pass from the north. Alter course to starboard. We now have, again, we still have Galliano on the right, Salt Spring Island on the left. As we carry on north here, we're steering towards Nanaimo, and that white light on the starboard side is Walker Rock. The light on the left-hand side is a buoy that marks Victoria Shoal and Governor Rock. The first one is Governor Rock, the next one is Victoria Shoal. If we turned left here, we could enter Houston Pass to go into the area where Crofton and Chemainus are, but we're going to keep going straight here. Still Galliano on the right. Now on the left, we've got Wallis and Secretary Islands. We're going to, again, more Galliano here. When we get up to the gap, we're going to be passing Porlier Pass. This white light to starboard, there's Porlier Pass there. We can't move deep sea ships through there. The channel's not wide enough, and it's too shallow. We're now steering towards the anchored ships in Trincomali. You can see Nanaimo ahead of us. That smoke is from Harmac. This first ship on our right is anchored at Trincomali number 1. This next ship is Trincomali number 3. So we're going to turn to starboard here for our anchorage. You can see a lot of small plane traffic leaving Nanaimo Airport. These are the early morning Air Canada connecting flights. So if you're trying to get from Nanaimo, you connect in YVR with one of these. You'll see a little puff of smoke here shortly as we start walking out the anchor. This anchorage is 40 meters deep. We're going to put 10 shackles in the water. When I go astern here, you can really see the bow dive off to the right, more than I was expecting, so we had to give her a little kick to port, back into the anchorage, and then we're going to walk out the other 8 shackles. We'll back on her, stretch the chain out, and then when we leave the ship, it'll be 10 shackles on the starboard anchor.